Hi everyone, Lunch Money Comics here. I'm at this beautiful church in Springfield, Massachusetts because it's actually the venue for Bing ComicCon. So let's go in and look at some comic books. Hey guys, how you doing? Yeah, good. Like bite my head or something. Okay guys, I was there for about an hour and a half. I actually have to run for family stuff, but I got a couple of books that have been on my list for a while, and let's go home and I'll show you what I got. So there you go guys, that was Bing ComicCon in Springfield, Massachusetts. I was there a little over an hour and ended up with a grand total of 2 comic books. That's it. It's the whole video. That can't possibly be it, right? 3 minutes of footage and 2 comic books to talk about. Listen, I have been trying to reduce the length of my videos. They can sometimes run a little long, and editing-wise, yeah, they could take me a while. But the truth is, my story with this comic book show and the comic books I ended up with did not end when I walked out of that church. But before I get into this story, just a quick reminder, if you like this sort of stuff, go down, hit the like button, leave me a comment, subscribe, find me on Instagram, all of that jazz. Let's get into what happened. So Bing ComicCon is a smallish comic book show that comes to Springfield every year, and I'd never been before, but I'd heard of it through the grapevine. My local comic book store, Holy Moly Comics in Northampton, Mass, was going to be there. I was meeting my buddy Jeff from Comic Spa, and it's one of those things, guys. It's free parking. It's $5 admission. You can't go wrong, right? I only had an hour, but I figured I'd poke around, say hi, see what was up. I didn't have any specific comic books in mind when I got there. It was a really cool venue. There were a lot of people selling their sort of their artist prints, independent books that they were writing. Jim Lawson was there, longtime Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, artist and writer. So it was a pretty cool venue. They had lots of food. There were some cosplayers there. You saw that awesome Carnage costume that guy made by himself. Just really, really cool. So, there wasn't a ton of comics, but it was kind of good because you weren't overwhelmed with all the stuff there. You could kind of see everything in 45 minutes or so, and I could just kind of pick out the things I wanted to see. So one of the vendors that I knew was going to be there was a guy named Matt. I had met Matt at the Western Massachusetts comic book show a few weeks earlier, and he had just tons of stuff that I love. He has, early Amazing Spider-Man, tons of, late 70s, early 80s Uncanny X-Men, which is my absolute favorite. And anyone who watched that video from that show, I got a whole bunch of Uncanny X-Men from him. All stuff from the Dark Phoenix Saga era, and they were fantastic. They were in great condition and great prices. So I definitely saw him out and went back through those boxes again. And in that last video, I mentioned there was one book that I wanted in the Dark Phoenix Saga run that I did not have yet, and I'd get it again later. Well, I couldn't walk away from it this time. It is the Uncanny X-Men number 130. This is from 1979. This is a Chris Claremont, John Byrne story, although the cover is done by John Romita Jr. And this, of course, is part of the Dark Phoenix Saga, but mostly it's known because it is the first appearance of Dazzler. Longtime X-Men Dazzler. She was really big in the early 80s. Not one of my favorite X-Men, but definitely no one can deny how cool this cover is. And on top of that, I mean, guys, this is a dark cover. You know, it shows wear, it shows color breaks quite a bit. Just like all his other books, they're all beautiful. This one is in fantastic shape. So I couldn't walk away from it this time. I pulled this one out. You know, he knew I wanted it. He actually held it for me while I did my other rounds around, around the whole comic book show. So awesome book. I'm happy to add it. I did make a mistake in a previous video. I said this is the only book I needed to fill out the Dark Phoenix saga. I was wrong. I'm also missing 133, which is the first solo Wolverine story. I don't know how I could forget it, but I'm definitely looking for that one. That's my next target, for my next comic book hunt. But in the meantime, Uncanny X-Men 130, first appearance of Dazzler. I also found another book. It wasn't worth that much money. He actually tossed it in for free. Thank you, Matt. This is the Amazing Spider-Man number 362. This is from 1992, and this is the second appearance of Carnage. Has an awesome cover by Mark Bagley. Very iconic, very famous. The reason I got this one, I mean, maybe I was inspired by that amazing Carnage costume, that guy when I walked in. But honestly, it's because when I saw this, I was reminded I had this book when I was a kid. I let a friend of mine borrow it, and I never saw it again. So I had to get it back. It was a toss-in. So once again, thanks, Matt. Happy to add to my collection. It's a really cool, iconic cover. Really cool comic book. 2 books, 1 hour there. This was almost the entire video, guys. But the story doesn't end with these 2 books. So here we go. So Matt had one other book that I had been interested in. You saw it in the footage. It was an Avengers 8 first appearance of Kang the Conqueror. Now, anyone who watched my footage from the Western Mass comic book show knows that I bought one of those. I got an Avengers 8. In fact, I got it from the guy who was right next to Matt. They're friends. They were sharing like the same booth. And I took both of their Avengers 8s and I put them side by side and I compared them. And I opted to get the one that was in worse condition that was cheaper. Now, granted, I had Comic Spot fix that one up and he did a banger job, guys. He brought it up from like a 0.5 to like a 2 or higher. Just a killer job. If you haven't seen that video and what he actually did to that book, definitely go back and check it out. The guy's a miracle worker. But like when you just get something stuck in the back of your head, way back there, and you just can't let it go. That's how I was with this other Avengers 8. The whole time, for like 2 weeks, I was saying, man, I should have got the better condition one. I should have just got the better condition one, paid a little bit more, I would have been happier. And it was bugging me for a couple of weeks. And, and after Jeff did that great job cleaning this book up, I felt better about it. I kind of started to let it go. It's like, oh, I didn't need it. This is great. This is all I need. And then I go to this comic book show, and I'm going through the boxes again, and there it is, that stupid Avengers 8 that had been bugging me for 2 weeks, staring right back at me. And I started having those feelings again, like, man, I should have just got this book a few weeks ago. And Jeff was there, and I was like, Jeff, take a look at this book. Would this have, would you be able to clean this up? He's like, oh yeah, this would clean up great. Sure. So, and I had the other Avengers 8 with me, and maybe I could trade up with Matt, but, we never really discussed it. We just dealt with the, the X-Men books, and I had to go, and that was it. I left. And I kept thinking about it. I thought about it the rest of the day. I thought about it that whole night. I woke up in the morning and I was thinking about this stupid Avengers 8 again. So I got up and I sent a text message to Matt and said, hey, did you sell that book yesterday? And he goes, no. I said, hey, can you send me more pictures? He's like, sure. He sent me more pictures. And I was looking at him and finally I was kind of like, what are you doing this afternoon? And Matt calls me right away. He's like, why? I said, well, I have 3 questions for you. 1, would you accept this much money? 2, do you accept PayPal? And 3, are you available today? And he said, yes, and I'm going to get a burger at the bar. Do you want to meet me? Sure. So I raced up to Greenfield, Mass. We sat down to watch a Patriots game at a bar. He was a wicked class act. He bought me lunch. What a cool thing to do, to discuss this book. And there it is. I got my second Avengers 8 in 2 weeks. Now, the old one was, like I said, at best, even after being cleaned up, was, probably like a 2.0. And I should have been happy with that book, guys. But, this one here, a lot of the issues the old one had, where it had some chips, and even after getting rid of the roll, it had a lot of just chips and tears and abrasions on it. This one has none of that. I mean, it's a little stained. It definitely needs to be cleaned up. But I think this one, is probably a 3.5 or a 4 right now. And after it cleans up, it's probably a 5 or a 6. It's always great, we talk about this, guys, when you can trade up a poorer quality comic book for a better condition one. That's always great, right? So I was excited that I could do this. Here's the thing. I didn't actually trade up for this one because I still have my old one. I bought this one. The thing is, he wasn't really interested in trading for the old one, but he's just giving me such a great deal cash-wise on this, I had to get it. Listen, guys, I did not set out to get one, let alone two Avengers 8s. They just sort of presented themselves to me, and I admit, you know, the timing of this is a little suspicious. I know, like, Kang is sort of the leader of the MCU bandwagon right now in terms of hype, but I promise, you know, like, I bought this first one before, like, Quantumania came out, and the truth is, I've been collecting Kang for a long time. You see, one of my first slabs I ever got back there is the first Council of Kangs. I have a whole, like, half short box full of, you know, Kang keys. Just like I have a whole bunch of Doctor Doom keys and Thanos keys and Galactus keys. I think big Marvel villains are awesome. I love them. And yes, I do think they have potential of, you know, of being worth more money in the future when they become like big, you know, bigger properties or bigger names to like, you know, like the public at large from watching the movies. But that's not why I got these. These literally were two friends who both had Avengers 8 who gave me great deals on these books, and I ended up with two. I have no idea what I'm going to do with these guys. I'll appeal to you. What do you think I should do? Should I, you know, keep both, you know, grade one, keep the other one raw? Should I, you know, trade the other one, you know, for something better? Should I hold on to these and sell them when the price goes up, if it goes up? Let me know, guys. I'm asking you. My mind's sort of spinning after all of this. I did not expect to have two of these books. I didn't expect to have one of these books. Quick sidebar, guys. I realized while editing this footage that I never actually told you how much I paid for this second Avengers 8. And I was also getting a little worried I was coming across as maybe disingenuous or was somehow betraying the original spirit of my channel. So, I bought this comic book for $525. Now, I know for people who collect comic books, you know, religiously, that may not be a lot of money, but it absolutely is a lot of money to me. Despite being, you know, an adult with some disposable income, you know, I still largely try to collect comic books like I did as a poor kid in the 90s. Scrounging around for extra cash, you know, to buy the comic books I love to read or I've always wanted to own. It's never been about, you know, this, you know, the speculation market or like the investment aspect of the hobby, which I completely respect and I enjoy. There's plenty of other YouTubers out there that talk about that stuff, and I watch those guys too. But for me, it's about the treasure hunt. It's about digging through flea markets and yard sales and finding these little treasures, these comic books I've always wanted to own, kind of cheap. So, trust me when I say this is an aberration. I happen to have extra money in my little, like, you know, play account that I use to buy comic books. I was more amenable to buying some bigger books. I had a great rapport with these vendors, and, you know, and a situation presented themselves, and I jumped on it. And this is definitely not a flex. It's not something that I'm holding up saying, hey, look what I did. This is an aberration for me. So for those of you who like my channel, you know, for maybe it's like everyman aspect of collecting, you know, it's frugality, maybe my, you know, earnestness or candidness and why I collect comic books and why they mean a lot to me. Rest assured, that is never going away. I will be back, you know, next week digging for dirty, dusty comic books in some, you know, awful place. I'm gonna have plenty of videos like that. You'll just have to suffer through the occasional, like, ComicCon, which I love going with my son. They're really fun. Or maybe like a CGC unboxing every now and then. There's going to be plenty more yard sales, flea markets coming soon, I promise. Just let this poor 90s kid revel in this moment of having like these two awesome grails. Thank you guys for letting me say that. Back to the original footage. Honestly, guys, if this was the only book I ended up with today, you know, I would have been happy with it. Again, you know, 1979, Claremont Byrne, X-Men, first appearance of Dazzler, Dark Phoenix Saga, beautiful condition. There's nothing wrong with this. Just, it's awesome. A+ all the way around. I love this comic book. I'm happy. And, you know, and then of course, you know, like a sort of iconic, you know, cover from my childhood. It reminds me of being a kid. Very cool. So as usual, guys, you know, go down, hit the like button, leave me a comment, subscribe if you haven't. Find me on Instagram and Lunch Money Comics IG. Keep looking for comic books in strange, unusual places and Comic Cons. And I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.